Welcome to WNBA Heatwave, where drama meets dominance and basketball greatness gets the spotlight it deserves. If you love buzzer beaters, bold takes, and behind-the-scenes chaos from the women's game, hit that like button and subscribe, because today, we've got a bombshell of a story to unpack. Now, we've seen rivalries come and go in the world of basketball, but what happens when a rivalry is more fiction than fact, more media-fueled than merit-based? Today, we're diving into a growing controversy that's heating up the women's basketball world, the obsession with Caitlin Clark, and how it might just be derailing the career of one of the NCAA's most hyped newcomers, Juju Watkins. She was dubbed the next big thing, a scoring prodigy from USC with swagger, skills, and media attention. But here's the problem. Her entire rise is being framed through the lens of Caitlin Clark, and that could be a massive mistake, not just for the media, but for Juju herself. So buckle up, because we're breaking down the numbers, the narratives, and the not-so-subtle media games behind this so-called rivalry. Let's set the record straight from the jump. Caitlin Clark is not your average college athlete. She's not even just the face of Iowa basketball. She's become the face of women's sports in general. She dropped 30-point games like they were layups, nearly 32 points per game, over 8 assists, and 40% shooting from beyond the arc. That's video game level stuff. But it's more than just buckets. Clark has completely reshaped the landscape of the women's game. Before Caitlin Clark, women's basketball had its loyal followers. After Clark, we're talking sold-out arenas, record-breaking viewership, and primetime headlines. She turned Iowa games into must-see TV. Millions of viewers, ticket prices soaring, merch flying off the shelves. She's not just putting up stats, she's making women's basketball cool, profitable, and unmissable. And that's where things get messy. See, once Clark broke out and became the biggest name in the game, the media had to find a challenger, someone to match the hype, someone to oppose her. Enter Juju Watkins. Now, don't get us wrong, Watkins is insanely talented. She averaged around 27 points per game in her freshman season. That's not nothing. But here's the catch. Her spotlight didn't come naturally, like Clark's did. It felt forced. The headlines weren't celebrating Juju for who she is. They were constantly stacking her against Caitlin Clark. And that kind of narrative? It's a setup for failure. Because while Clark's momentum was built off performance, charisma, and fan engagement, Watkins's buzz feels like it was manufactured in a PR war room. Let's talk about buzz. When Clark plays, the arena is buzzing, fans show up, social media explodes, there's organic electricity in the air. When Watkins plays, even with her talent, the crowd reactions just aren't there. The seats are half full. The TV ratings are nothing like what Clark pulls. That's not Juju's fault. But it is a reality the media keeps ignoring. The forced narrative around Juju being next up feels like it's skipping a step. She's undeniably gifted, but she hasn't earned that iconic status yet. Not through performance, not through presence. And when you try to position someone as a rival before they've built their foundation, the pressure can backfire fast. All right. We talked about media hype, but now it's time to get down to the cold, hard facts, the numbers that separate legends from hopefuls. Let's talk stats. Caitlin Clark isn't just leading the NCAA in scoring, she's rewriting the record books. With nearly 32 points per game, she's dropping numbers we've never seen before at this level. But here's the kicker. Clark isn't just a scorer, she's a full-court general. She's dishing out over 8 assists per game, launching threes at a 40% clip, and orchestrating plays like a seasoned WNBA vet. Now compare that to Juju Watkins. Yes, she's averaging an impressive 27 points per game, especially for a freshman. That's elite scoring. But outside of putting the ball in the hoop, the numbers start to fade, only about 2 assists per game, shooting just around 30% from 3. Not the most efficient shooter. And let's be honest, on-court leadership and basketball IQ are things you feel when watching Clark, and those intangibles just aren't shining through with Watkins yet. This isn't to tear her down. It's to show there's levels to greatness. Clark isn't just ahead, she's miles ahead, and she's doing it consistently with every defense in the country throwing the kitchen sink at her. So when the media tries to place Watkins side by side with Caitlin Clark, they're not comparing. Apples to apples. They're comparing a rising star to a walking legacy. But maybe stats don't tell the whole story, right? Maybe it's about impact. How fans connect, how much attention a player brings to the game. Well, Caitlin Clark has transformed women's basketball into a spectacle. Let's talk numbers. Again, but this time on the business side, Caitlin Clark's games are averaging millions of viewers. Her matchups have outperformed NBA games in the ratings. Let that sink in. Ticket prices? Through the roof. Entire arenas sold out weeks in advance. Scalpers flipping nosebleeds for hundreds. Now look at USC and Juju Watkins. Her games? Often filled. With empty seats. The buzz? Minimal. You could blame market size, team history, even media coverage. But the reality is clear. People want to see Caitlin Clark. She's must-watch TV. Watkins might be next up, but she's not drawing that kind of passion. Not yet. And this isn't just a popularity contest. In the WNBA, attention equals dollars. Ratings decide primetime slots. Ticket sales determine franchise success. And right now, Clark is dragging the sport to new heights all by herself. Watkins might have the talent, but the draw? That's still Clark's domain. Now here's where things take a tough turn. Late in the season, tragedy struck Juju Watkins. A torn ACL, the kind of injury that puts everything on pause. Her year, her momentum, her development, all halted in an instant. And let's be clear, we never root for injuries. Juju is a young, explosive athlete with a bright future. And this kind of setback is heartbreaking. But what happened next? That exposed another side of this conversation. Caitlin Clark immediately took to social media, posting a message of support. Pure class, no rivalry, just respect. But the media? Oh. Suddenly, they were full of sympathy and glowing articles about Watkins' character, her strength, her resilience. That's fine. She deserves empathy. But compare that to how the media treats Caitlin Clark. When Clark has a bad game, she gets dragged. When she shows emotion on the court, they call her cocky, entitled, arrogant. Meanwhile, other players get labeled passionate, competitive, or fierce for the same behavior. The difference? Clark threatens the system. She's too good, too popular, and some people don't like that she's changing the power dynamics of the game. So instead of celebrating her, they tear her down and then turn around and protect others like Watkins with soft glove coverage. That's the double standard. That's the bias. And if you're paying attention, it's impossible to ignore. Let's pull back the curtain for a second, because Caitlin Clark isn't just a basketball player. She's a brand. Since she stepped into the spotlight, Clark has brought millions of dollars into women's basketball. We're talking ticket prices spiking across the board, local economies booming when Iowa comes to town, TV deals being renegotiated because networks want more Clark. Even WNBA teams are feeling the pressure, and she hasn't even played a minute in the league yet. Her name trends on social media every game day. Sponsors are lining up. Merchandise is flying off shelves. She's got young girls watching, NBA players tweeting, and brands investing. Watkins? She's got potential. But that machine, that magnetic pull, it's not there yet. And when the media tries to anoint her as the next Clark, they're ignoring the real value Clark brings. Not just to a team, but to the entire sport. All right, we've covered the hype, the stats, the money, the injuries. But now, it's time to dig even deeper. Because what's really fueling this rivalry between Juju Watkins and Caitlin Clark isn't basketball. It's agenda. There's this subtle, sometimes not so subtle, undertone in how the media covers Clark. One second she's a phenom. The next, she's being vilified for being too confident. One moment she's praised for lifting women's sports to new heights. The next, she's the villain for waving off a defender or talking smack mid-game. Meanwhile, when other players, especially ones the media wants to succeed, do the exact same things, it's swagger, it's grit, it's alpha mentality. Let's not play dumb here. We know double standards exist, and in women's sports, they're rampant. But Clark has become a lightning rod, not because of what she's done wrong, but because she's done so much right, so fast, and with so much attention. There's an undercurrent of backlash, a need to humble her, to find someone, anyone, to cut into her legacy before she's even finished building it. And the media thinks Juju Watkins is that person. But here's the reality check. Manufactured rivalries don't age well. And if the only way to lift one player is by tearing down another, that's not coverage. That's propaganda. Let's talk pressure, because this, right here, might be the biggest separator between Caitlin Clark and Juju Watkins. Clark didn't just survive the spotlight, she owns it. National media watching her every move, cameras in her face 24/7, millions expecting 30-point nights like it's easy. She thrives on it. She's been heckled, Fouled hard, micromanaged, picked apart on social media, and every single time she laces up and delivers. She's been in Final Fours, Elite Eights, primetime national games. She's lived under pressure, and yet she keeps getting better. Now look at Watkins. Again, we're not saying she can't handle pressure, but so far, she hasn't had to. She's been protected, shielded, labeled a future great without ever playing in a Final Four or facing the national spotlight. Clark deals with every night, and when Watkins did struggle or show cracks, the narrative was always softened. Excuses were made. But here's the truth. The road to greatness requires friction. It requires scrutiny, failure, pressure, pain, and then dominance in spite of all of it. And that's the Caitlin Clark story. We don't yet know what the Juju Watkins story will be. And that's fine. But pretending she's in the same tier, same spotlight, same pressure cooker, it's just false. Now here's where this story becomes more than just a basketball debate. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about what happens when a rising player is rushed into someone else's spotlight, and how that pressure warps the journey. Juju Watkins is young. She has time. She has talent. She could become a monster in the WNBA. But right now, her path is being defined by chasing someone else's milestones. She's being pushed not to become herself, but to become the next Caitlin Clark. That's a trap. We've seen it in men's basketball too. The next Jordan, the next LeBron. It rarely ends well. Greatness isn't about mimicking someone else's journey. It's about owning your own. If Watkins wants to be more than a media headline, she has to stop chasing Clark's records and start building her own legacy, on her own terms, with her own identity. Because right now, the obsession is overshadowing the potential, and if she's not careful, it might derail her before she ever gets the chance to dominate. So here's the truth. No one in the media wants to admit. Caitlin Clark isn't being challenged by Juju Watkins. She's being chased, and that's a huge difference. Clark's path to greatness is earned, battle-tested, criticized, celebrated, authentic. Watkins? She's still in Chapter 1, and instead of letting her build slowly, the media is shoving her into Chapter 10, hoping she can dethrone someone who's already a legend in the making. That's not just unfair. That's dangerous. Let Juju Watkins grow. Let her develop. Let her fail. Let her be Juju. Because as long as she's defined by Caitlin Clark, her ceiling won't be her own. It'll be someone else's shadow. If you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button and drop your hottest take in the comments. Will Juju Watkins ever reach Caitlin Clark's level? Or is the media hype setting her up for failure? Subscribe for more raw, unfiltered WNBA takes, and remember, when the temperature rises, we bring the heat.